Hi everyone, my name is Rita Nunão and I'm part of DreamDapps corporate team. And before we get into this Bitcoin tutorial, don't forget to subscribe to our channel down below. Let's do this. So today's segment is about questions we have been asked most about our core business, that it's Bitcoins. And before we get started, it's important to say that Bitcoin is the world's best known virtual currency. Once it was used only by technology fans and has now come to everyone's attention, even those who have little understanding of how this coin works. Bitcoin gains more and more space and value in the market, and it's now used as a great innovative payment method. As you may know, Bitcoins are controlled by a special network and do not rely on central banks for regulation. Also, Bitcoin was the first cryptocurrency to be created, and it came up with the intention of being used on the internet. A fun fact is that its creators stated that this innovation would make money what email did for the postcards. So you can see the potential put in place on this. Nowadays, there are hundreds of cryptocurrency, and among them we have Ethereum, Ripple, Litecoin, and so on. All of them work based on encryption, meaning if a person who has digital coins in his wallet and wants to send money to someone else or carry out some transaction, has to use a password. After validation, the withdrawal of coins from that wallet and the deposit in the payee's account is registered. But the most important of Bitcoin's technology is the place where all these transactions are recorded. It's called blockchain. I'm pretty sure you have heard of it. It is a list that gathers all the transactions made, and the list is placed on all computers that engage in the Bitcoin network all around the world. So this list ensures that no one can spend twice the same currency and that all transactions are properly performed. The experts in this area believe that blockchain will revolutionize digital security, not only for money transaction, but also for personal and professional information and data. Experts also believe that Bitcoin will make possible to reproduce in electronic payments the efficiency of card payments, since they are fast, they are cheap, and do not need third parties. However, guys, it is always important to remind investors to conduct extensive research before investing. This is so important for you to avoid the risk of falling into fraud. So now let's move to the questions you ask us more often. The very first one is, what is Bitcoin? So Bitcoin was launched in 2009 by an anonymous creator who followed under the pseudonym of Satoshi Nakamoto, and it is based on a technology called blockchain. It means it exists as an accounting book in a network of decentralized and distributed computers without central authority that oversees it. This also means that by employing blockchain technology with sophisticated encryption, Bitcoins offers a way to securely send digital currency from peer to peer. The second questions we get the most is, how can we buy Bitcoins? So Bitcoin can be bought using traditional currencies like the dollar, or in our case here in Portugal, euros, but can also be bought using other digital currencies such as Ethereum or Litecoin. There are already a large number of cryptocurrency brokers where you can buy. And this will lead us to the next question, that is, where can we buy Bitcoin? The most common place to buy is through cryptocurrency brokers. However, the reliability and security of these brokers may vary, so you should find a broker who has good recommendations. In the US, for example, some brokers have already been regulated. Coinbase is an example of that. Another question is how to invest in Bitcoins. Well, we at DreamDapps, as investors and trading providers of Bitcoins and other cryptocurrencies as well, we believe that these technologies can revolutionize the financial world and disrupt the status quo, obviously. So we see Bitcoin as an exit and we follow a long-term buy and hold strategy. If you want to invest in long-term return, you must transfer first your Bitcoins into a digital wallet, and so it begins. How does Bitcoin work? Another question. Bitcoin records all transactions that occur on our network on all nodes that are part of it. This redundancy ensures that no one acts in a bad faith and changes or excluded a transaction from the network. So each Bitcoin user have a public and private encrypted key pair, and the public key serve as account address. For example, if John sends Drew a Bitcoin, he will send it to Drew by public key address. The transaction is validated and added to blockchain, which is the decentralized account booking I was mentioned before. Why do people trust in Bitcoin? Well, much of the Bitcoin trust comes from being fully open source and decentralized. This means that all transactions and Bitcoin issued for existence can be queried transparently in real time by anyone. All payments as well can be made without relying on third parties, and the entire system is heavily protected by reviewing algorithms, such as those who are used for online banking, for example. So no organization or individual can control Bitcoin, and the network remains secure even if not all of its users can be trusted. Another question is if Bitcoin is totally virtual and immaterial. Well, Bitcoin is virtual in the same way credit cards and online banks we use every day are. It can be used to online payments and already in physical stores. In the past year, in 2018, we had a lot of improvements in those areas, and good and big brands like CK just start accepting this kind of payment. So it's very positive, and Bitcoin balances are stored on a large network and cannot be tampered by anyone. So in other words, Bitcoin users have exclusive control over their balances, and Bitcoins cannot disappear just because they are online. So, what rules Bitcoin price? Another super question. Bitcoin price is determined by the law of supply and demand. So when the demand for Bitcoin increases, the price increases, and when the demand falls, the price falls. That's pretty obvious. Since Bitcoin is still a relatively small market compared to it's going to be in the near future, it does not take a very significant amount of money to increase or decrease the market price. So we are facing still volatile variation price for now. Is it Bitcoin a bubble? That question all of you want to ask. No, a quick increase in price does not constitute a bubble. Choices based on individual human action by hundreds of thousands of market participants is the cause for Bitcoin price to float. At the same time, market looks for price discovery because it's something relatively new. Is Bitcoin a Ponzi scheme? No. Also a no question. A Ponzi scheme is a fraudulent investment operation that pays back to our investors with their own money or with the money from investors who come after, instead of profits made by the people who run the business. Of course, Ponzi schemes are meant to collapse when there are no more new members joining. On the other hand, Bitcoin is a free software project without central authority. Consequently, no one is in a position to make fraudulent representations about the return on investments. So like any other currency, imagine gold, US dollar, euros, yen, and so on, there is no guarantee that the purchasing power and the exchange rate will shift freely. Other question is, does Bitcoin benefit those who join first? It's also a no question. Early users have a large number of Bitcoins because they have taken risks and invested time and a lot of resources in an improved technology. And that technology was difficult for someone to use and was hard to secure properly. So there is no guarantee that the Bitcoin price will increase or fall. This is very similar to investing in a startup company. It can increase in value through its utility or popularity or never take off. So Bitcoin is still in its childhood, as I like to say, and was designed with a long-term vision. So, is speculation and volatility a problem for Bitcoin? And this one is particularly good because this is the egg and the question and the chicken situation. For Bitcoin price stabilization, a large-scale economy needs to develop, and with more business and users, of course. So fortunately, volatility does not affect the main benefits of Bitcoin as a payment system. Traders can convert Bit payments into their local currency instantly, allowing them to profit from Bitcoin advantage without being hampered by price fluctuations. So with so many solutions and incentives, it is expected that Bitcoin will grow and develop at a level where price volatility will become limited. So good news, good perspectives. And now a question about safety. Is Bitcoin safe? Well, Bitcoin technology, the protocol and the encryption has a strong security record, and the Bitcoin network is probably the largest distributed computing project in the whole world. So Bitcoin's most common vulnerability is the user error, us. It is up to the user to use good security practices, protect their money, or use service providers that offer good level of security against loss and theft. Another interesting question is, what will be the Bitcoin future, and as a professional, should I be prepared to deal with it? So there is a huge spectrum of predictions about what can happen, from people who believe Bitcoin value will reach $1 million in a few years, even those who think it will totally lose its value. But more important than Bitcoin, professionals must be prepared for money scanning and how this will influence production, financing, and consumption. That is the main thing. We have one more question. Who are Bitcoin competitors? This one is a very broad question, but the important thing here is to understand that there is no direct competition, but rather an important coexistence where each new currency tries to exploit blockchain-based technology differently, and each one by specializing in very specific niche. For example, Ethereum is specialized in smart contracts and functions as technology platform. Ethereum is easily capable of generating new currencies. Ripple is focused on banking market. Bitcoin Cash is a subdivision of the original Bitcoin, and so on out there in the fabulous world of cryptocurrency. How many virtual currencies are there? It's another question that we have very often. And although Bitcoin was the first one to be created, in the last few years there has been a real proliferation of new virtual coins. So there are currently over 1,300 roughly alternative currencies according to the last MarketWatch research. And the best known are Ethereum, Ripple, Dash, Litecoin, which we mentioned already in this segment. What is Bitcoin market value? A question very popular as well. So Bitcoin as well as other coins, records a truly amazing behavior over the past year. Bitcoin's growth more than 1,600%, a valuation that has drawn the stock capitalization of this coin. The market value of Bitcoin in circulation is around $283 billion, according figures from CoinMarketCap. And the second most valuable currency is Ethereum, with a capitalization of more than 69 million euros. Take a good look at the potential that we have in hands. They are amazing figures. Is my investment granted? Well, that's a very good question. Bitcoin investment has yielded very expressive returns, with this coin being supported by a crazy purchase race. But in case of losses, there are no guarantees of investment. The investment will bear the losses like any other financial investment. How is the purchase and sale system? Well, Bitcoin transfers happen between the buyer and the seller's wallet. The transaction lasts a few minutes, and to be effective, a complex backstage process occurs. I'll try to make it simple because this is a little bit nerd. All transactions are collected in blocks. Each block is connected to the previous one by a link. It's a code called hash. Many of you deal with hash ID when you want to do a transaction. So together they form a chain of blocks, what's so-called blockchain. Those responsible for setting up the blockchain are the so-called miners. They collect the transactions that are being added to the network but have not yet been placed in a block. In addition, the miner has to calculate the right hash to form the bond between the blocks. So since these calculations are quite complex, as you can imagine, there is a fairly large computational cost. And that's why ordinary home computers have no chance of competing with professional miners who make use of super machines to get the most attempts in the shortest amount of time. So it's a very complex process. It's like programming. You need to be a super machine in IT. What do miners earn? Following the previous question. Well, as a reward for keeping the network running, the miner gets a certain amount of Bitcoin. They also win when those involved in the transaction want the transfer to be included right on the block. And for this, of course, the user have to pay a fee. The last but not the least, the most wanted and popular question, is Bitcoin legal? Well, virtual currencies still face issues around their regulation, but some countries are already in favor of its use, such as Japan, Switzerland, UK, US. So I believe, and the experts also have the same opinion, its bloom, it's the expected trend. So I think we have here a lot of new things to play with, to explore, and we have the chance to have financial independence. So if you have any questions, please feel free to contact us at info@dreamdapps.com. You can see our email down here in the screen. And still this week, I will be back with a new segment. Stay tuned. Hope to see you soon.